Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate you. The Women of Courage show is being broadcast by the Women and Children's Restoration Ministries to help you problem solve, to help you dream again, to help you believe that anything is possible. We want you to believe that you do not have to marry the first man you meet just to get someone to take care of you. You do not have to live a life of drudgery. You can educate yourself. All you have to do is learn to read competently. We want you to take a chance on yourself. Stop believing all the soothsayers around you that have never left a state in their lives. People who do not have courage to fly. People who only think of lying, cheating, and stealing. You can live an exciting life. All you have to do is believe that you can make your dreams come true. You do not have to go to bed with someone you despise day in and day out. You have the right to marry someone that you can talk to someone that believes in you and has faith in you as a human being. In other words, you do not have to settle for just anyone. But what you must do is strive toward your goal. You must be goal oriented. You must organize yourself. You must be clear about what you want in life and why you want such a life. All of us are made up of dreams. As our dreams unfold in our lives, our spirit soars. Realizing our dreams becomes a problem because oftentimes we are beaten down by our friends and family. We are beaten down at school by people laughing at us because of our shoe size, our ear size, our breast size, the clothes we wear, etc. We are beaten down by people saying nothing will come of our lives. We are beaten down when our mothers and grandmothers constantly say that we're going to be just like our father, an inmate in prison. Many of us are also discouraged when our mothers are inattentive. She is wrapped up in her new boyfriend. But life anew is possible. It is my job to encourage you to go as far as you can dream and as far as your dreams can take you. It is my job to get you to believe in life again. I am sick and tired of people failing at life just because they are around negative speaking and negative acting people. Do not let the failure of other people make you lose confidence in yourself. Yes, you may be surrounded by poverty, but you must look for a way out. The book, If You Believe in God, You Do Not Belong in Prison, will help you. What you must do above all else is learn to read competently. You must read, read, and read. Anyone who laughs at you for reading, you need to leave that person alone. I do not care if it's your mother. Anyone who discourages you, you are to stop all association. Man is not different than plants. We need encouragement to grow as plants need water to thrive. You are to leave foolish, stupid people alone. Their ignorance will weigh you down or even get you killed. Sit down and think how you can avoid these people, especially if they're in your family. If you are overwhelmed with the tiring feeling that feels as if you're carrying a bag of stone around every morning when you get out of bed and think how you'll have to spend another living life you're not passionate about, the books I suggest are the perfect solution for your unique needs. Not only will we help you realize why these feelings overwhelm you and what you can do to change it, but they will also teach you how to live a life of strength, courage, fearlessness in order to realize all of your dreams. If you are lacking the attitude and psychology, proper resource or vision to make your dreams a reality, combined with dissatisfaction with the execution of your plans, but you remain firmly dedicated to making your ambition a reality and creating the life you deserve, you will certainly derive the most benefit from professional, incredible content within these books. contents that will assist you in achieving the results that you are after. You are never to give up on yourself. Are you ready to leave your future to chance? Of course not. Take your life in your hand and learn all the necessary tools, mindset, strategies used by the men and women of courage used in order to live the life of their dream. Change your life with our book starting today. We're going to thoroughly discuss the sex trade taking place in our community and the country. For us, this is high priority. We cannot let the deviant men and women in our communities win just because we fail to band together and mount a defense. Before I begin, I want to say please do not ignore any of the information we discuss. If you missed something, email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com and we will send you our links to our broadcast. This is life saving information. Whether you believe it or not, once your child is taken for the sex trade, there is nothing you can do and no one you can go to. There are nonprofit organizations that give lectures to prevent this practice and try to rescue people, but there are no state agencies that send investigators out to look for kidnapped victims of the sex trade. You are on your own. Think of how you would feel if a kidnapping takes place in your family, if your daughter or favorite niece is taken and sold into sex slavery. This is why we're going to thoroughly cover the subject of sex trafficking, hoping you will join us on Saturday in fighting this horrible, horrible crime. We must do more than just talk. Women have a tendency to discuss subjects like sex, sex trafficking, rape as if it happens to someone else. The subject is unpleasant, so many women choose to ignore it. This is a mistake. Women exercise the same behavior when it comes to rape. We do not want to discuss the subject. We do not want to prepare for the event. How can you protect your child if you refuse to talk to them about rape? You must find courage somewhere and be a responsible parent and discuss the unpleasant things in life. These discussions with your children can help them protect themselves. You would be telling them to look for bad people. The more you talk about rape, the better your daughter will be prepared to deal with the rapist. There are characteristics of the rapist, just like there are characteristics of a pimp. Why should you go to church begging God to help you when a pimp turns your daughter into a prostitute, when all you had to do was talk to your daughter over and over and over again about how men use women to make money off their bodies? It is foolish to think it will not happen to you. Start shaping your child's mind now instead of waiting until she is in a caustic relationship that might cost her her life to start talking to her. Stop having children if you're not willing to fight for them. Fighting for your child means educating yourself on how to train your children and how to talk to them. There is lots of information in books that can help you. And there are also lots of organizations with information. All you have to do is reach out. Stop walking around with your head in the sand, pretending all is well when the ground is crumbling under your feet. Granted, no one is perfect, but when it comes to your children, you must fight for them before someone takes their body and minds. Sex traffickers are banking on our ignorance and lack of activity. Again, I say, no one is perfect, but when it comes to your children, you must fight for them before someone else takes their body and mind. Some sex traffickers are banking on our ignorance and lack of activity. There is something else women love to do, and that is to blame the victim. He asked for it. She asked for it. Look at the dress she was wearing. In other words, the woman was raped because the man cannot be expected to have self-control when a woman dresses sexy. Men are so overcome with the thought of sex that they have to rape someone. This is a sign of self-hatred and jealousy in women. During the last show, I read to you a passage from the book The Deadliest Moment. The passage was entitled A Husband's Dilemma. I'm going to repeat this section of that broadcast. I want every married woman to listen to this information. Your life may depend on how you respond. I want you to listen to what I'm reading you very carefully. This is from Murder in the Family, Volume 2, Part 1. It is entitled A Husband's Dilemma. Miss Noreen Bowl was the last woman murdered in Mansfield, Ohio in 1989. She was murdered on December 31st, 1989. She was murdered in her home the last day of the year because she was in the way. She was in the way of her husband's future. She was in the way of his happiness. 1990 was to be a new year for her husband, Dr. John Boyle Jr. He would no longer have to sneak around or provide alibis for his adulterous behavior. He wanted to live openly with his pregnant mistress. Noreen Bowl, husband, wanted to begin a new life with his new mistress. He wanted to open a new medical practice in Erie, Pennsylvania, and he did not want to pay child support or alimony. So he decided the best way out of his dilemma was to murder his wife. His plan was quite simple. He would have his mother come to his home to babysit his two children. He staged an argument with his wife. During the argument, he hit Noreen Bowl over the head. Once she was subdued, he suffocated her with a plastic bag. He stored his wife's body in his car. The next day, he rented a jackhammer, drove to his new home in Erie, Pennsylvania. He dug his wife's grave in the basement of his new home. He cemented the area over her grave, then drove back to Ohio and returned the jackhammer. Sometime during this period, he reported his wife missing. Supposedly, she left the home after the argument. On the surface, Dr. Boyle was safe. His wife's body was securely entombed in the basement of his new home, never to be seen again. He was ready to start his new life. On January 25, 1990, his plans were put on hold. Ohio authorities exercised a search warrant for his home in Erie, Pennsylvania. Noreen Bowles' body was found beneath the floor in the basement. Dr. John Boyle was charged with first-degree murder. After a short trial, Dr. Boyle was convicted. For the murder of his wife, Dr. Boyle was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Dr. Boyle did start a new life, although it was not the life of his choosing. In Volume 2, Part 1 of Murder in the Family, we said that if your husband is committing adultery, then your life is in danger. We repeat the statement. If your husband is committing adultery, your life and the lives of your children are in danger. We will once again say it. If your husband is committing adultery, your life is in danger. Under no circumstances are you to think he will not murder you. Dr. Boyle believed he planned sufficiently to avoid detection. Who would suspect the doctor of murdering his wife? He was a smart man. Why not murder his wife and start life anew? It was the easy of all his options. In his mind, he had won as soon as he returned the rented jackhammer to the store. His lust for happiness cost Noreen Boyle her life. In 1999, Chief Heart Surgeon Richard W. Ayers Sr. believed he was smart and had planned sufficiently to murder his wife. In 2002, fertilizer salesman Scott Peterson believed he was smart and had planned sufficiently to murder his wife. All these men believed they could get away with murder. No one would suspect them. They had constructed a plausible alibi and left no evidence behind. When a man is committing adultery, a woman cannot assume that her husband will think that the best way out of his dilemma is to discontinue his affair or ask her for a divorce. A woman cannot make any assumption as to how her husband will solve the problem of the girlfriend versus the wife. Once a man commits adultery, His wife is now in the way of his mistress. The wife is in the way of his financial independence. The wife is in the way of his happiness. She has become a problem, and the children a liability to be managed. Countless husbands conclude every year that their wife is in the way. The husband of Kathleen Lipscomb concluded that she was in the way, and Kathleen Lipscomb lost her life. You must be watchful to ensure you do not become a woman in the way. Sometimes you must understand that getting a divorce is not necessarily an option for your husband. He may want to avoid the entanglement of a divorce, and he may want all the money. Husband may feel that has worked all his life, and now he is entitled to enjoy the fruits of his labor without sharing them with you. You have done little to contribute to the wealth of the family. He is the one who went to work every day. Adultery is a selfless act committed by selfless people. If the selfless person runs true to form, all decisions thereafter will be based on the theory that what is best for him or her is what is best for everyone. Adultery is now a disease prevalent throughout our society. Justification is provided for all marital transgressions. Once you learn your husband is committing adultery, you must act, and I mean act quickly. You must act to secure your future and to secure the protection of your children. We advise hiring a private detective every now and then so you will not be caught off guard and be the last person to know that your husband is committing adultery. And we advise placing the insurance proceeds out of the hands of your husband. Place them in a trust for your children. Do not let your husband be the beneficiary of any of your life insurance policies. Once you learn your husband's extracurricular activities, keep your mouth shut and make your plans. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. One thing you must understand: every day, somewhere in this country, a man is plotting the murder of his wife. His plans is merely a puzzle to be worked out or worked on until a solution is found. Murder is not an isolated event. You can discern his objective regarding your safety and welfare. Karen LeClaire was 51 years old. She lived in Pennsylvania. She had been married for 26 years. Unknown to her, she was in the way of her husband's happiness. She was part of her husband's dilemma. She went missing June 11th, 2017 on Lake Erie during a boat trip with her husband. Her husband, Christopher LeClaire, age 48, was charged with criminal homicide because the police did not believe his story. In fact, he changed his story several times. First, he said she just went missing. After a body was found, he said she committed suicide. When the investigators asked him how did she weigh her body down with her anchor from his boat, he said at first he didn't know. Then he said he weighed the body down because he didn't want anyone to know his wife had committed suicide. Karen LeClaire's body had not been found at the time of his arrest. A doc video showed Mr. Christopher LeClaire got on his boat alone that Sunday at a dock in Erie, Pennsylvania. This is when she was reported missing. The same dock camera, however, showed Mr. LeClaire getting on the boat with his wife the day before and returning hours later that same day without her. Miss Karen LeClaire was assumed dead. Christopher LeClaire acknowledged that he had been having an affair with a 44-year-old woman from the couple's hometown in Albion, Pennsylvania. He had been having the affair for several months. LeClaire's girlfriend also told the police He mentioned a $30,000 life insurance policy he had on his wife. His girlfriend later testified in court that she had been pestering her boyfriend, which was Mr. Christopher LeClaire, into divorcing his wife. On the morning of June 11th, Mr. LeClaire spoke to his girlfriend about moving into his house before he left on a boating trip with his wife. 3 weeks after Karen LeClaire's death was reported on June 10th or 11th, her body was found July 2nd, 2017. 2 fishermen were fishing on the lake and they found her body floating in the water. Karen LeClaire had been shot and her body was shown to have been bound at the ankle with a nylon fishing wire, and an anchor was tied to her chest. Mr. LeClaire said that his wife committed suicide because she could not stand the fact that he had a girlfriend. Our question is, why did he not just ask for a divorce? Why did he have to be so greedy? Her family went to court to protect her assets from him. Christopher LeClaire was convicted of all charges October 12, 2018. A jury of 7 women and 5 men found him guilty of first-degree murder. The jury deliberated for just 1 hour and 40 minutes before rejecting Mr. LeClaire's claim that his wife killed herself while the couple was out on their commercial fishing boat on June 10, 2017. The prosecutors had argued that Mr. LeClaire killed his wife because his girlfriend had been pushing him to get a divorce and to commit to their new relationship. Christopher LeClaire was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He wanted the money. That was his dilemma. He wanted the house, the car, the boat. He wanted the cash from his wife's life insurance policy, and he wanted the proceeds from their fishing business. He mentioned his intentions to kill his wife to several friends, once in 2004 and once in 2011. Neither of these people told anyone of this threatening conversation. They did not care enough about Karen LeClaire's life to at least tell the police if they didn't tell her of her husband's conversation.
I can tell you, this will be the hardest thing you have ever experienced. That moment when you decide to risk everything to follow your dreams. But when you realize it is possible, that this is no longer a dream, this is a reality, you will change. The hustle will be born. But you need to believe in the process. Countless hours, sleepless nights, leaving nothing on the table, because we can't let this one fail. We won't let this one fail. We grind because we have to now. We push because we have to now. There is no wait for this dream. Every move is calculated, every decision is planned and executed. You've got one shot to make this count. No room for regrets in this life. We dream big, we push big, we grind big, we live big. So tell me, are you dreaming or are you pushing?
Reverend Dennis Graham, and we've got an interesting program going on here. We're training returning citizens and low income how to do industrial aerospace welding. And we're looking for more people to come in, and we're looking for investors anybody that wants to sponsor. And we're offering this to the low income and the returning citizens for free so that they can get a step up in life and get an actual good career with a sustainable position in a sustainable job.
You were built to push boundaries. You were designed to go beyond the breaking point. But somewhere down the line, you got comfortable. You decided settling was the best option. There are no comfort zones on the path to success. There is no wait once you see an opportunity. In this life, we don't walk around our fears. We grit our teeth, we run over those fears. So show me where you come from. Where risk is taken and the pride is won. We don't stop in this life. We don't quit in this life. We push until the day we die.
Why are only a few women in history books? Why are women left out of leadership positions? Why are 21st century women struggling with the same issues that 20th century women fought against? The series Women of Courage gives answers to these questions. Millions of women all over the world are living in fear, unhappy, and unfulfilled, wishing they could do more with their lives. If you are one of these women, fearful and unhappy, take the bold step and purchase the series Women of Courage. Read and learn how other women met these challenges and succeed in living fulfilling lives. Read the series Women of Courage and learn how you can change your life forever. Women of Courage is an inspirational book that seeks to tell the stories of strong women who have persevered, even when those threatened by a woman's strength have stood in the way. It's a book for all women, a book to help more of us stand up and say, it's about time. It's a book for you. Get your copy from touchedbythelight.us.
As you can see, sexual sin is not worth it. I can give you plenty more statistics. Do you remember Attorney Fletcher? He was committing adultery with a judge in Macomb County. She had to testify at his trial after he murdered his wife. He too thought he was too smart to be caught. He was convicted of second-degree murder. I think he's still in prison. My point is that if you believe it is okay to commit various sexual acts, how can you be alarmed at sex trafficking, and why would you spend any of your time trying to stamp this problem out? We are concentrating on sex trafficking because this is becoming a huge, huge problem in this country. We are discussing what if there is anything we can actually do about this problem. In order to do this, I have dissected the situation. I am attempting to discuss what is involved in trying to correct any social ill. Nothing will be accomplished if this situation is not tackled correctly by people who are committed to doing the work it takes to win. Do you know how long it took the women in this country to win the right to vote? It took more than 100 years. Yes, that is correct. Those women who started the cause in the late 1800s did not live long enough to actually see a woman vote. Imagine working day in and day out without seeing victory in sight. The women who fought against drunk drivers did not win their battles easily either. They were rebuffed. Were not respected and women were not feared. Women were not respected by the judiciary, the police, or the prosecutors. Men still could beat their wives with impunity. It wasn't until 1992 that the first man in this country was convicted of raping his wife. Women until then had no rights to refuse or say no to sex. Their bodies were not considered their own. Women were laughed at if one mentioned marital rape. This violence is still visited upon women around the world, Singapore, India, etc. Women have experienced this form of violence for centuries and still thought that they could control women. Why shouldn't they think this way? They had control of the judiciary, the police, the state and federal government, and the church. That is correct. The church has no love for women. The church expects obedience. Women are to do as they are told. When you have some time, some spare time, go to the library and research why President Carter resigned from a large religious organization over their treatment of women. The Violence Against Women Act was not signed into law by President Clinton until September 1994, and every year since then, men in Congress have done their best to get rid of this law or water it down so it has no effect. They traditionally spend their time trying to exclude whole groups of women from the law. Native American women, Eskimos, women who are immigrants, etc. And the men give stupid reasons for their proposed exclusions. Also, I want you to go to the library and look up all the laws passed to protect women in various states and look at what parties passed these laws, especially the stalking laws. Women have been forced to commit suicide because they have been stalked. So, if you begin to fight against sex trafficking, do not think everyone will like you. In fact, they will be talking behind your back, including women. They will be snickering and laughing, saying to themselves, they will never be able to stop men from buying women. Prostitution is as old as the Bible. Ha ha ha. The women that will be laughing are the people who have never stood up for anything in their life. Hello, everyone. We will continue in our discussion of sex trafficking, but I have changed the talk around. I prepared a report to read to you today. It was all organized as an essay, are supposed to be, but I'm not going to follow this pattern because I think the most important information of the entire report is information needed by parents to protect their children from traffickers. I'm going to report this section of the report several times to make certain that parents understand the dangers to their children. You are not immune from sex trafficking just because you have a quote unquote good job and you go to church on Sunday. You must pay attention to whom is around your children. You must pay attention to the parents of your child's friends. They must be of good character. And please understand that traffickers can be found within your family. They can be aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews. That is correct. One of your relatives can place your child into sex slavery and think nothing about it. Your relative will stare you in the face, sympathizing with you at the loss of your child. So this section is for parents. Pay attention to your child and trust no one. Pay attention to how your neighbors and friends and relatives react around your child. Remember, in order to be effective, the trafficker must get in proximity of your child to recruit. Remember, the motive behind sex trafficking is money. Anyone who is in need or desperate for money can look at sex trafficking as a solution to their problem. And who will be the first target? The children around them. Remember, the front line is the parent. You must educate yourself. Learn the signs of sex trafficking, learn the risk factors, and prepare your child for telling you when they do not feel right around a person. You must tell your child about some of the people who are not necessarily nice. Also, you need to help your child build self-esteem. Many people continue to think of human trafficking as a third world problem. That is not so. According to a 2016 report, there were more than 7,000 sex trafficking cases reported in the United States. More than 2,100 of those cases involve U.S. citizens. There is a belief that only illegal immigrants are at risk for becoming victims of sex trafficking, but this is not correct. According to Elisa Enrile, a clinical associate professor in the USC School of Social Work, explained that anyone can become a victim of human trafficking. The majority of the victims are women, approximately 70%. Victims of sex trafficking can be women, children, adolescents, and to a lesser extent, men and transgender people. There are many factors that can put a person at risk. The risk factors are directly related to the modus operandi of the trafficker. There are two main modus operandi for sex trafficking: abduction and brainwashing. The latter is most common. Anyone can be the victim of kidnapping, since it is common for attackers to use drugs and physical force to break the will of their targets. Traffickers seek out potential victims who are traveling alone or separated from their group. Due to the vulnerable nature of children, they also seek children because children are easily intimidated. This is why we believe that sex traffickers should be subject to the death penalty. The brainwashing technique is more convenient for traffickers because they make the victim believe that it is their own decision that leads them to participate in this illegal activity. So later they will not feel able to denounce or oppose their captor. Next is extremely important. For a person to be at risk for brainwashing, it is necessary that at least one of the following characteristics be met. Again, for a person to be at risk for brainwashing, it is necessary that for at least one of the following characteristics to be present. The person have low self-esteem, have been physically or sexually abused, struggle with drugs or alcohol, having family environmental issues, low social economic status, in other words, living in poverty, or have little social or legal protection. I repeat, the person have low self-esteem, or has been physically or sexually abused, or struggle with drugs and alcohol, or have family issues, or lives in poverty, or has little or no legal protection. You must pay attention to these risk factors as they relate to your child. Do not fool yourself and say my child has high self-esteem. Check it out and make certain. Now for a closer discussion. Have low self-esteem. People with low self-esteem do not feel valuable or worthy to receive love and constantly seek the approval of others, including strangers, and they do not feel able to reject other people without feeling bad about it. Traffickers are masters at manipulating and exploiting at-risk youth. These traffickers groom their victims, gaining their trust and loyalty by preying upon their vulnerabilities and showering them with praise and gifts. Tell your daughters that if they are in the presence of a man who is always praising them and giving them gifts, they need to stop and take a closer look at this male. Talk to your children about grooming. Discuss self-esteem with your child. Ask your child how they feel about neighbors, family, and friends. What you want is for your child to alert you to any changes in behavior of these people. Take nothing for granted and stop trying to tell your children what to think. What you need to do is help them learn how to think. Remember, a child is not a miniature you. They are their own person, and they are entitled to their own thoughts. Victims that have physical or sexual abuse, or after an emotional or violent trauma, any person, especially a child or a teen, is in an unstable psychological status that can be exploited by traffickers. Uncles are good for sexually abusing nieces and nephews. Person who struggles with drugs and or alcohol. Any person or teenager dependent on drugs or alcohol is physically and psychologically unstable and therefore vulnerable. Person who has family issues or is seeking family environment. This is especially important of cases where children or teenagers who have never had a home or live in a home with constant conflict and where they are treated with neglect. This could lead them to have poor academic successes and inadequate social skills, and often they become runaways. Desire to have a father and mother who does pay attention to them and show them affection put them at maximum risk. In a child seeking attention for a father or mother are at maximum risk. Pay attention to your child. The victim is a child living in poverty. One of the factors that traffickers always use in their favor is the monetary need of the victims. Children, adolescent, and adult women tend to succumb to the pimp's promise to provide economic stability, but the truth is that the victim of sex trafficking has no control over the profits of their work. For the person that has little or social or legal protection, traffickers often demonstrate a certain degree of power and some even beyond powerful gains. So they approach people who feel at risk of being deported or jailed to offer protection, false identities in exchange for sexual exploitation. Once the trafficker detects one or several of these vulnerability points in his objectives, he or she will seize any available opportunity to seek out the potential victim, including in-purse tactics at malls, bus stops, walking to and from school, and outside group homes. Majority of traffickers now seek children or recruit children online through social networking sites and use the information obtained through these methods to relate, to build trust with the child more quickly and proceed to convince the victim to leave with him or her. In 2015, a raid was conducted on several brothels in Nevada, and they found that the brothels were trafficking young women. One was as young as 16 years old. Her parents had sold her to a pimp. Vulnerable girls are the most common targets, with 1 in 6 being a runaway. They're easily sexually exploited. 90% of the traffic victims have suffered some form of sexual abuse before being trafficked. The most common age for a victim is 14, although some victims have been found as young as the age of 11 in the United States. Sex trafficking is made possible because there is a vast market for it and even greater network to protect it, while customers feel secure in knowing that they will only receive a minimum sentence if they are caught. The women are later discarded by the pimp once they're no longer valuable. The purpose is that there are men looking to mistreat children and women. The customers are looking to abuse women and children. The mortality rate is 40% higher than the average population. Those children or women who survive are left with deep emotional scars which never heal. Their lifetime in the business is approximately 6 to 8 years. We need to increase the prosecution of customers and extend the prison time for customers. Last time we spoke on sex trafficking, we talked about the selection process. Today, we will discuss some preventative strategies with respect to children. They say it is better to be safe than sorry. There's always something you can do to prevent you or your family members from becoming a victim of sex trafficking. The fight must be conducted on 2 fronts. The fight should be carried out inside the home, then the fight should be carried outside the home. Here are some useful strategies. You must teach your children how to deal with strangers. Asking them to not speak to a stranger is not enough. You must consider all the situations in which your children might be at risk and prepare them to act in the right way, including how to scream and fight back in cases of an abduction attempt. The Kid Smarts website offers two pretty useful guides for parents to prepare their children against abduction. You can email us at voices@gmail.com and we will email you the link to this site. Again, the name of the site is Kid SMARTZ website. First thing a parent should do is to create a comfortable environment in the home. It is important that children and youth feel comfortable in their home and have confidence in their parents to tell their parents their problems and consult them about making decisions. Pay attention to your child, especially if they seem to be worried or undecided about something. Educate younger family members about the subjects. Knowledge is power. If people can recognize when they are being approached by a possible trafficker, he or she will be prepared to reject it. Monitor the use of social networks. Teach your children how to use social networks safely without accepting requests from strangers or providing any personal information. Start conversations with your child about online safety and how pimps use social networking sites and apps to mask not only their appearance but also their true intentions while trying to recruit new victims. Promote youth self-esteem. The most important way to prevent traffickers from finding new victims is to ensure that our children value themselves. It is critical to promote self-esteem in both boys and girls and to make certain that they know about the recruitment strategies of traffickers. The foundation for the home strategy is self-esteem. If you're going to discuss self-esteem with your children, you're going to have to learn to hold your tongue and allow your child to say what he or she thinks. You have no right to make your child think the way you think or feel the way you feel. Trying to make your child think as you think is stupid. Yes, I use the word stupid because when your child grows up, they will either hate you or strongly dislike you, and they will move away from you to another state if they can. Your child will not always be a child. That child is going to grow up to be an adult, and they are not going to like you because you did not have a healthy relationship with your child because you browbeat them. You will end up in a nursing home with no one coming to see you. So if you're going to discuss self-esteem with your child, you need guidance from a professional. That is correct. You will need help from a psychologist. You will need to help work with your child to succeed at sports. No, he or she does not have to be a star. All they have to do is become good swimmers, good baseball players, good basketball players, good violinist players, good at whatever they like to do. Them succeed at doing whatever it is that they like to do. Them learn to fight to do what they want to do. Remember, if you can force them to agree with you, then others can force your child to agree with them. Do you want your child to be a follower, or do you want your child to stand up for his or own self? It is your choice. Your child does not want to be a miniature you. Do not fool yourself. Self-esteem is the battleground for your child's life. Self-esteem and self-love are intertwined, and you got to get it right. Get on the internet and read every article you can find on self-esteem, building self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. Forget about watching your favorite TV show. You have more important things to do, and that is to help build self-esteem and self-love in your child. And make no mistake, you are the central character in this play. Your child's self-esteem is predicated on your presence in their life. Actually listen when your child speaks, when they tell you their ideas, And do not say something sounds stupid just because you don't like the idea. Years ago, the idea of a submarine sounds stupid to some people, but submarines exist today. A flying machine sounds stupid also years ago, but we have airplanes today. A machine that speaks also was stupid years ago, but we have machines that talk today. So support your child, spending time praising your child, and please stop calling your child stupid. Just because you do not like his or her father does not mean they have to be abused by you. And stop telling your child he or she will be a failure in life or that they're going to be just like their father. When you say these things, your child is probably saying to themselves, thank God I will not be like you. I am going to again repeat the risk factors involved in the abduction or procurement of sex trafficking victims. Understand, these factors are important for parents to understand and to share with their children. Regardless of how vulgar it sounds, sex traffickers are always looking for children, and we must stand in the gap to keep them from becoming successful. Make certain that you tune into our next show. We're going to discuss a few of the men and women charged and convicted of sex trafficking in the United States. There is one woman in particular out of California that I want to discuss. I do not believe that putting her in prison will do her any good. I will let you be the judge. I will tell you what she did, and you decide whether or not prison will change her state of mind. The woman I speak of, her name is Melanie Danae Williams. She calls herself Pretty Hoe, spelled with an H. From her statements, we can see that sex trafficking is getting to be quite popular in the United States. We will also discuss a Michigan sex trafficking case still in progress. So please tune in next week for more discussion of sex trafficking.
You should read Women of Courage. The book will inspire you to begin your life again. Read how females took courage to live exemplary lives, even though most were from humble backgrounds. The books teach the importance of courage in achieving the great things of life. The books motivate you to look beyond those things you think you couldn't do. The books give you the insight into your innate abilities that your fears have suppressed. There is no greater feeling than creating a new you.
You can find the series Women of Courage at www.touchedbythelight.us. Dear listeners, help us save a life. Stop breast cancer from taking lives. Will you assist us in putting the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer in the hands of a million people? Please go to the website www.touchedbythelight.us and download the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer. Then email this booklet to 5 friends, asking them to email the booklet to 5 of their friends. We are trying to reach a million women with this information to save lives. The death of one woman to breast cancer from our community is one woman too many. We thank you for your support. We enjoy your listening to the Women of Courage show at WHPR every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And we support your local hairstylist. Do not forget to go to touchedbythelight.us website and download a copy of the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer. This is very important information, and we would appreciate it if you email a copy of this booklet to 5 other women. We are trying to reach a million people with this booklet. Help us reach our goal. Your emailing this booklet to another woman can help save a life. Thank you. Recovering your life from foreclosure, bankruptcy, divorce, or other personal tragedies is not easy, but you must believe. You may be wounded, broken, battered, and hurt by life, but you must stand up and fight. People often say, when you're going through hell, never give up. It's easy for someone to say this, but talk is cheap. but you are in a place where every turn you take are met with a challenge or trouble, one thing after another. I'm not here to simply tell you not to give up. I understand what it means to be going through what you're going through right now. I slept on a cement floor being bitten by spiders to survive. However, I'm here to tell you that change is possible. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but you must hang on and do as I tell you. Yes, change is possible. I want you to hope and to believe against even all evidence. Despair is no respecter of status. It is no respecter of age, background, gender, or color. Somewhere right now there is a child crying, a man high on drugs, a mother dancing in a club just to pay her bills. Somewhere right now out there is a person heartbroken, a loss of a dear one, a failed promise of love. Somewhere out there is a person clothed in rags, without a home, without affection, and without a family, and without love. Somewhere right now, someone out there is broken, going through a rough time. I say unto you, hold on, stand fast. You can restore and recover your life. You must believe that you are worth fighting for, regardless of what the world says. When I lost everything and had to live in my car, I had a person to forecast gloom and doom into my life. She said the only person in the world that I loved would desert me. This did not happen. When the doctor punched a hole in my heart and sewed me back up, I bled inside my chest cavity for 7 days. I did not die. God sent me an angel to help me. When cancer visited me, I did not die. God sent me an angel to stand by me. I still have both these friends today. They have seen the best of me and the worst of me. I say unto you, believe and stand fast. Help is on the way. In closing, remember, when you read and learn with your child, the entire family benefits. Let us see how strong you are to honestly work with your child to improve the entire family. Have the courage to say to your child, I do not know, but I will find out for you. Let us see how emotionally strong you are to honestly work on a problem with your child. Saying I do not know is a courage, not a weakness. Have the courage to say I do not know, then go and ask a librarian to help you. Your child will learn his or her self-esteem and self-confidence from you. When you ask for help, it lets your child know there is no weakness in asking for help to obtain knowledge. Everyone in his or her lifetime will have to ask for help from someone. Your child will learn from your flexibility and courage. Thank you for listening to Women of Courage, and have a great day.